So, Raph, polling out today. This is good news, obviously, for the CAQ, specifically for Christine Frechette. How much, I guess the idea of their question would be, how significant is this?
Well, it's a considerable jump in voting intention. In just a month, let's just take the Léger poll, for instance. It's a 5-point increase in the popular vote for the CAQ in just a month compared to last month in April. So it seems like the CAQ is back on track now, and we're heading towards possibly a three-way race in the next election. The CAQ is at 22% now, just 6 points behind the Liberals, according to Léger, and the PQ stands at 30. So if you have three major parties that are battling for the first place and that are around 25-30% each, that means in certain regions where the vote is split and the races are tight, anything can happen at the moment. So for the CAQ, that means they can at least not necessarily hold their grip on power, but at least save a few seats and remain a political force in our provincial landscape.
So I will point out there's not an election until October.
Yeah.
And where it might seem like the CAQ now is gaining some strength, I can't help. I mean, I look at these poll results, and I understand the Frechette effect, as it's called, right? She's been, went to France, went to the U.S., met with...
Hyperactive.
At some point, that's going to stop. It's going to slow down. And at some point, you have to deal with the real issues. I wonder how many people actually look and go, wait a sec, it's like me. This is the same party, and for the most part, made up of the same cabinet ministers who were there under François Legault. So what really changed here at all, other than you have a new leader who people seem to like a lot more than the old guy who everybody didn't like?
A new leader, a new generation, a new energy, a change in tone on certain issues, much more moderate, for instance, on immigration. And I think that's pleasing to hear and to see to a lot of Quebec voters at the moment. We saw the same similar phenomenon on the federal stage just a year ago, and now see where the Liberals are standing in voting intentions. If there were an election tomorrow on the federal stage, Mark Carney would get a very strong majority. Yet a year and a half ago, the Liberals were going nowhere under Justin Trudeau. So a change in leader, yes, can appear to voters like a completely change. And she's a breath, obviously, to many voters, she's a breath of fresh air for the CAQ.
Seems pretty easy to me, though, for the opposition to stand up and say, hey, before you're all mesmerized by Christine Frechette, let's look at policy. Let's look at how we got here to begin with and why François Legault is no longer the PM. I mean, you can't just you can, because obviously the Liberals managed to do it with Mark Carney when they got rid of Justin Trudeau.
Right.
But I look at this, but you said something on immigration that she's got a different, from what I saw or what I remember, the only change is delaying that PEC program for 2 years without really detailing a whole lot in it. What else has changed beyond that?
That is true. I think it's more about the approach. It's less divisive. It's the tone. It's not necessarily about policy and about the actions. It's about the tone and how she approaches those issues. Whereas François Legault used to be much more divisive in the way he talked about immigrants as people who are basically coming to anglicize Quebec. This is not the approach of Christine Frechette. So I think that's where she to me she appears more moderate, and I think that's one of the factors, of the many factors that contribute to her success at the moment. If you look also, we talked about the Léger poll, but if you look at Main Street, very impressive. Now the CAQ, according to Main Street, is second behind the Liberals, ahead of the PQ. A few points ahead of the PQ, imagine. So things can change quite quickly in politics, even if we go back to the Léger poll. Among non-Francophone voters, they have a jump of 7 points, mainly to the expense of the Quebec Conservatives, because Éric Duhem, as we know, recently backtracked on his commitment to scrap Bill 96. And it seems like it's benefiting the CAQ, even among non-Francophone voters. On all aspects, in every regions or demographics, the CAQ is progressing, whereas some parties are losing ground to the CAQ.
How can with non-Francophone voters be that kind of an increase when nothing in anything she has so far talked about or pledged has anything to do with non-Francophone voters?
It's
nothing language-wise, by the way, has changed.
No.
Dawson, all that information, vocational classes, adult ed, all that is still on the table. It's changed nothing.
It could be just a flash in the pan. It could be just a fad. But it could also be something that could remain on the long term. Right now, if you look at the polls, there's a consistent growing trend, and we're always looking not at a single poll in politics, but at the trends.
Right.
And here the trend is going upwards clearly for the CQ. So it's good news, really, for a party that just a couple months ago was almost guaranteed to be completely wiped off the electoral map. This is good news to cheer about for the CQ. It's pretty bad news for the other parties, because if you look at it, a three-way race also means potentially a minority government, which would be a catastrophe. Let's say PSPP wins a minority government. That means his pledge to hold a third referendum, he can't do it with a minority in the National Assembly.
And the CAQ would have to say no, and the Liberals would obviously say no. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Eric Duhem, for the one seat he has, would say no. So that changes a lot of things.
Quebec Solidaire, maybe, to support the PQ.
5 seats.
But you don't hold a third referendum on sovereignty if you don't have a strong majority. That would be suicidal to me.
The other thing I want to ask, again, part of the polling that's gone on in here, individual-wise, right? So Christine Frechette enjoying this kind of, call it whatever you will, this moment, where Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon looks at this and goes, wait a sec, what's happening here? The other part of this poll is the desire for a referendum or separation is lower than I've ever seen. What are we at, 23% in this poll?
Quebecers don't want to hear about it. And that's the main... That's the main issue for the PQ at the moment, because they are so far away and so committed to holding a third referendum on sovereignty, you can't backtrack at this point. So you have to continue pushing for a third referendum on sovereignty, which the vast majority of Quebecers do not want at the moment. So it's going to be a burden for them in the campaign. For 45 days, they're going to have to defend an idea that almost nobody except their core base wants. Even part of PQ voters at the moment, about 1 in 4 PQ voters do not want to hear about a third referendum on sovereignty. So these are very volatile voters that could go to other parties, such as the CQ. It's a fertile ground to pick up eventually for Christine Frechette.
Is Eric Duhem, the numbers are not good for the Conservatives in here at all. Is he a spent force, do you think, or...
I think Eric Duhem, and you know what, with his backtracking on Bill 96, I think Eric Duhem, more and more people come to see that the guy is mostly opportunistic. He's gonna try anything to get some media attention, but in the end, he doesn't really stand on principles. He's just there to get as many votes as possible, to try and get elected. His obsession is to get elected, to get a seat in the National Assembly. And in the end, that's not what people are voting for. They're voting for people who stand on their principles and who have ideas and that they stick to them.
Let me talk about something non-political. We were just chatting before coming on. I did have no idea about this other than the headline today, which was Canada will spend $1 billion to host the FIFA World Cup. So,
indeed. So it comes down to roughly $82 million per matches, because as we know, we're going to hold 13 matches in total in Canada, 7 in Vancouver, 6 in Toronto. $1 billion. Do we really have $1 billion to spend on this, to be honest, in this country at the moment? Could we not spend $1 billion on things that are more pressing issues, like housing, like inflation, like helping people who are struggling to make ends meet? $82 million. Just a comparison, it's the Grand Prix weekend right now. It cost us less than $30 million per year to bring the Grand Prix in Montreal. Its only focus is on Montreal for 3 days. So in terms of visibility that we get for Canada and for Montreal, we get much more for less than $30 million, whereas you're going to get 7 matches, lower tier matches. Let's face it, it's not the finals, it's not major matches, because these are going to be held in the US. Okay. And also you have to, so the government of BC says it's going to bring to their economy $1 billion. And on the other hand, you have the government of Ontario, which evaluates the economic spin-off. Mm-hmm. Is that how you... Yeah. So to $236 million. So there are 7 matches in Vancouver, $1 billion in economic spin-off. 6 matches in Toronto, $236 million in economic spin-off. I don't get how they evaluate that. Math
seems a little flawed, how they could be that wide apart. Yeah.
To me, it's inflated. The BC numbers are probably inflated to justify the major investment in public funds in these matches. And in the end, you also have to take into account the cost of holding those matches, because let's not forget that for 2 weeks prior...
By the way, I'd never heard this before. I did not know this. In the bidding process, if you actually get it, right, you're a city to host games, you have to agree to 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after FIFA comes to town. What can you not hold?
No major events, no major public events during 2 weeks prior and 2 weeks after, and during, of course, the FIFA World Cup. So that means that for almost a month and a half, for instance, in Montreal, we're a festival city. So we hold major events, Jazz Fest, the Francos, the Montreal Triathlon. All those events would have been jeopardized if we eventually decided at some point to hold FIFA matches in Montreal. It would have been major losses for our tourism industry and our economy here.
Which might explain perhaps why the Montreal did not. And I know the mayor took kind of grief for this, right? Why aren't we bidding on this? But look what it would have cost us if that's the case.
There's a cost also to this decision. So yes, there's the cost of the public funds we are investing in holding those events, but there's also the cost of not holding other events that are bringing people to the city at the same time. So to me, Quebec did the right thing at the time to decide not to get into the FIFA frenzy and not to hold those events in Montreal. It was the right thing to do because it would have cost us a lot of money, a lot of public funds, which we have not, and also add to that the losses generated by these obligations per the agreement we have to sign with FIFA.
$1 billion to hold the FIFA World Cup.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of housing units you can build with $1 billion.
Raph, thank you so much for coming in.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.